Jesus Christ. How did anyone ever win this game? Oh, I know, with a pedal and a lot of quarters. Again, now it's going faster. Lovely. Bullshit. Stupid.
Originally released in the arcades in 1986 by Taito. Online sources are saying Taito as in Taito of Japan, but I saw several sources from back in the day which are saying Taito of America was the one that originally released it. Either way, it's Japanese in essence, in origin, sort of, but I'm not exactly sure if it came from Japan or America first, but definitely Taito. We are showing off the Amiga release, which was developed and published in America by Discovery International Software. It means it is an NTSC Amiga game, one of many. This is one of the rare examples of an NTSC Amiga game actually having a region lock on it. This is what falsely makes people think online that this is a rare NTSC Amiga game. It's because if they stick it into their PAL machines, it's going to say no, no go, no go. You know, people do not realize that just because it plays on a PAL machine does not mean it was made in a PAL territory. Most NTSC Amiga games, they will play perfectly fine, just slow and stretched into widescreen when you play them on a PAL machine. And nevertheless, this one had a region lock, which prevented PAL machines from playing it. Now, it actually did have a PAL release. Well, the original version had a PAL release. Again, published overseas by Discovery, I believe. It's in the title, Discovery Software International, so they had, setups overseas, which allowed them to publish it over there as well. But it was originally developed in America, so I'm thinking late 1987, so December-ish, I think, from my research. We are playing a later release version 1.05, which adds about an extra 30 levels from Discovery themselves, so they must have done a little level editor there and released 30 extra levels, which are accessed separately from the original levels. So the original levels will play by default, but if you press F3 or F4 during the title screens, you can access these 30 extra levels from Discovery. I do not believe this release 1.05 ever saw the light of day in Europe. At least officially. I'm sure it was cracked or something eventually. Let's get into the story a little bit. Arkanoid strangely does actually feature a little bit of story, which you might have already seen. A tiny bit of that, which I had to slow down. I showed it to you twice earlier, the introduction story, because it goes by too fast to actually read. So I showed it to you once, and then the second time I slowed it down a little so you could actually read the English there. Yes, but we're going to show you it goes even deeper in the manual itself, but this is the actual cover of the box. The manual has the same cover, but it's in black and white, so I'm showing you the box cover here. The manual noting copyrights from 1986-87 Taito of America, an Arkanoid concept designed by Taito of America, FYI. And while my failings on level 3 play in the background, awful level, I'm going to read from the story. The error of this story is unknown. In the vast reaches of space, the starship Arkanoid carries its precious cargo, 4.5 million human beings, in a state of suspended animation, survivors of a brutal alien attack, as they search for a new home among the stars. Kablam! Suddenly, a drone fighter destroys the Arkanoid's upper deck. We're under attack. It's containment wall breached. The ship's main fission reactor begins to overload. Gamma radiation floods the Arkanoid. The radiation! Don't worry! The suspension pods will protect the passengers! But we've got to get help. The emergency shuttle Voss ejects and breaks through the barriers that separate our universe from the strange, formless void of warped space. Something's wrong. We're coming to a dead stop. Meanwhile, in an extra-dimensional fortress, a lone figure watches and laughs. Instead of safety, the Voss finds itself imprisoned in a space labyrinth, trapped in space, warped by someone. Can the Voss escape and save the Arkanoid? Can you shatter the space walls and defeat the merciless enemy forces? Take the controls, prepare yourself for the ultimate test of skill. The fate of 4.5 million men, women, and children is in your hands. Trapped in space, warped by someone. Taito of America or Taito of Japan, either way, it is some serious English going on right there. Now, I make fun of it, but I'm pretty sure Discovery actually did the manual story, and they left in the part that's actually in the arcade game, you know, the trapped in space, warped by someone. That's the English part. Some of them, actually, I've seen a couple of them recently, actually. Some of the ports changed that bit, attempted to rephrase it for correctly, and it loses its charm when you do that. So I make fun of it, but it's makes you smile. I like the English there, and I like that Discovery kept it in. They added a whole bunch of actual story for some reason. It's laughable, but I applaud. You know, the attempt to add story into such a simple kind of a game. Level 3.
And it's over.
Level 3. It's awful level. It's the level in a lot of arcade games that are designed to get you to pump in a few more quarters. And I hate that it's in level 3. Just the third level in the game. It's already in here. Couldn't you have waited to maybe the 5th or 6th level? You suck them in with the first 2 levels, and by the 3rd level, you get this nearly impossible level. It's ridiculous. I think Arkanoid would have made tons more money in the arcades if they would have waited a little bit longer to add that awful level there. But in the arcades, you know, hopefully the first 2 levels you enjoyed enough that you were willing to insert your pocket full of quarters for the 3rd level to get past it. Now, if you enjoyed this little cameo by Taito's Space Invader there, hope you will check out my friend Stygian Phoenix video on Arkanoid versus Space Invaders that she did recently, just showing off a little tablet game that she bought, and it's very interesting. Added a lot of mechanics to it. And it's a more recent game. You might want to check that out over in the annotation card, description, or comments of this video.
So instead of there being a ball to bounce around, we're going to bounce around the shots from the invaders. You control it with your finger, and you can toss it back, or you can just bounce it off like the orb. Oops, that was a bad one.
Hope you'll check out Stygian's video. She was inspired to do that one just by seeing that I was working on this one on Twitter, and I appreciate that. So thank you, Stygian. So Arkanoid is a meaningful title to me in many different ways. It was one of the first games I remember seeing on the Amiga. One of the first games one of the first real games I was able to play on the Amiga. I remember playing several educational games prior, but this one I definitely remember. My sister loved this game. It's probably one of my sister's favorite games for the system. I posted a video on Facebook of some gameplay, and she was like, I played that game for hours. Remember my dad playing it, I remember watching him, and I remember playing it myself. But beyond the childhood memories, which are, of course, priceless, it actually holds quite a bit of importance in terms of this YouTube thing here. It was the very first video I ever released on YouTube. Wasn't a review, it was just a short little funny look that I originally posted on Facebook to my friends just because I thought it was funny. It was because I was playing the DOS version, which was developed by Nova Logic. Nova Logic didn't do the great. I mean, it's an okay port overall, but they had a fatal flaw in the design of it, in which the ball could get stuck in an infinite loop, which the Amiga version does not have. Eventually, after maybe 5 or 6 or 7 attempts where the ball is doing the exact same motion, it will randomly adjust itself slightly, so those things won't affect your gameplay experience. So the DOS version has that awful infinite loop thing, so I chose to make fun of it for Facebook, and it got a really nice response, so I decided to actually upload it to YouTube. It was the first ever video that I uploaded to YouTube. I hope you will check that one out. And it was also important enough that I went back to it for the start of my Season 2 reviews, Gaming Memories and Reviews. Season 2 started off with a look at Arkanoid Doh It Again for the Super Nintendo, which is my favorite overall version of Arkanoid because the controls are very nicely done, and that game was designed for the console market, the Super Nintendo specifically, whereas this game here was designed for the arcades, and it makes it fundamentally quite different. I love this game, have a lot of history with it, but it is not the greatest gameplay experience because it's not designed for you to win. It's designed for you to pump in quarters. Discovery faithfully ported it, and they ported it the best. It was the first port of this game to a home computer or console. The very first port, and it's, we're going to get into that more later on, but it is definitely the best port, but it's faithful, which means the difficulty. It's all there, despite the fact that, you don't have a pedal controller for the Amiga. I mean, the Amiga was capable of using a pedal device, although I never saw one. But this game is not. This game will only allow you to use the mouse, and when you think back in the day, using the tank mouse, if that was your mouse of choice, Whoa, this game, impossible with the tank mouse, I would say. It's impossible with a laser mouse, I will say. Unless, of course, you're using a certain function key, which will allow, in-game, it will slow it down to a snail's pace. Way too slow. I mean, maybe that's how slow it needed to be in order to use the tank mouse, but it is far too slow. I fully completed the game without using any continues using that slower setting. I passed the 1,000,000 score mark using that setting with the laser mouse, and I was bored out of my mind the entire way. And if you see anybody do a long play of this game for the Amiga, they are using that slow down setting, which has that snail pace the entire way. The ball will never speed up. I wish there had been a median kind of a setting, a middle ground where, just like in the Super Nintendo, Doh It Again, it will speed up to a certain extent, but never so far. Like in the arcade, it would just get faster and faster and faster to guarantee that eventually you needed to insert some more quarters. In defense of the game, though, you do have unlimited 99 plus credits, so every time you do die, you can always pump in an extra credit to start on the level that you left off in. Still, I feel the game would have been better served to have another setting in the middle, which offered, faster than the slow snail, like a toddler could win this game in the slow mode. There is no challenge to it, and I think it's impossible for anybody on the Amiga using a mouse to win this game on the normal setting. But it's interesting to watch, I will say. That's why I'm showing you the normal setting for most of the review. But the Amiga version here is arcade perfect in the graphics, presentation, and the sound department, and perhaps maybe arguably the tiniest bit better in the... I think they might have even polished the graphics a tiny bit more, not utterly sure. When I look at the arcade version, I have the slight feeling, that the Amiga was ever so minuscule and better in terms of the graphics. But it's at least identical at the very least. But the Amiga version is definitely hampered by the fact that you can't use a paddle controller as far as I've been able to see. So I would actually recommend the Commodore 64 version, which does offer paddle support. Graphically, it's not the arcade version, but it is very, very nice looking for the Commodore 64. And the gameplay probably will make that your favorite version overall. It's my favorite version of the original game is actually the Commodore 64 version, which I did not grow up with. And now we are facing the boss of the game. And while you say hello to Doh, I'm going to set up some reviews from the time period that I want to get to. I collected a bunch of them. I want to show you them. We're going to start off with info from March/April of 1988, where you might not notice it, but the entire cover is actually dedicated to Arkanoid. Besides Doh that you see in the left there, that huge figure in the middle is one of the enemies of Arkanoid. Arkanoid Secrets Revealed. Here's the screenshots of the games they were covering here in this little short review segment they did here. A couple of good ones there that I'm going to get to eventually. Arkanoid Discovery Software, 163 Conduit Street, Annapolis, Maryland, 21401, 5 out of 5 stars. The most obsessive, addictive game to come down the bit stream in a long time. Easily the current info office favorite. We were lucky to get this issue out at all. Expertly translated. From the popular arcade game, the Amiga version retains all the nuances of the original, more than just Ultra Breakout. Arkanoid appeals to every age, sex, and temperament. 32 fascinating, read diabolical levels will keep you out of trouble for weeks. The sequel is already in the works. Look for a secret game tip elsewhere in this issue. TM. Which I believe is Tom Malcolm. I'm starting to get to know these editors and stuff through my reading. From the next year, December 1989, in their first ever annual Top 10 Games issue. The top 10 arcade games, the best arcade games, bring all the action and excitements of the arcades right into your home. The worst are nothing but noisy shoot-'em-up clones. Here are Info's picks for the best arcade games of all time. Arkanoid, our favorite Amiga arcade game, is the best coin-op conversion ever done for a personal computer. Also made it into the individual editors, Ben and Mark's top 10, number 2 for both of them. From May 1988, Amiga World. Fast-paced and addictive, Arkanoid by Discovery Software is a reproduction of the arcade game by the same name. Arkanoid's backstory casts you as commander of an emergency shuttle from the starship Arkanoid. The 4.5 million Arkanoid passengers depend on you to protect them from enemy forces. One flaw is the game's inability to save high scores once the machine is turned off. Though the game is copy protected, Discovery will sell you a replacement disket for $3. Probably get more into that a little later on. Like most good games, Arkanoid is simple to learn but difficult to master. The excellent graphics and sound complement exciting play to make it an enjoyable addition to your Amiga game collection. $49.95, Discovery Software International. Note that I am currently showing you toddler mode. I won't be in that mode for very long. Just showing it off for you. This is how slow it actually goes. It never speeds up from this in toddler mode, but I wanted to show you it a little bit, and also my million score mark, which I got for the picture review there, playing in toddler mode. Back to Amiga World, November of '88, their top 40 all-time Amiga games. Also had a little advertisement for Dragon's Lair. Check out my review for that. The second best ever Amiga game of all time from 1988, Arkanoid. $29.95. It had gone down in price due to the second version, which we'll get into more later. If Arkanoid isn't the best arcade game for the Amiga, then it comes in a very close second. If you have ever played the arcade version of the game, then you have already played the computer version. They are almost identical. Quick reflexes and a touch of strategy make this a game you must own. The most fun I've had with a mouse. Roger Good. Don't know who that is, but he's quoted. From Compute, June of 1988. Everything new is old again. Arcade games are making a dramatic comeback, rising fast in both sales and consumer popularity. Games such as Arkanoid Discovery don't really need more than what they already have in a game system such as the Commodore Amiga. Arkanoid takes over your Amiga. The fast-action arcade game literally grabs your computer by shutting down the Amiga's multitasking operating system. It loads quickly and takes full control of the computer. You pop the disc out of the drive, you won't hear a familiar click, click, click of the Amiga waiting for the next disc. And don't expect to be able to drag this game out of the way to use a word processor or spreadsheet. Arkanoid has taken over. Great example of the cultural differences between Europe and America. Here, they were very condescending. They either hated it or they were condescending towards games that did not allow you to use the Amiga's operating system to multitask and such. In Europe, the exact opposite. They thought this was great programming when you took over the Amiga. Discovery has done a great job with the game. It looks and plays just like the arcade version of the game, and the stereo sound is spectacular. Arkanoid is Discovery's first game, but not its first Amiga program. Discovery also sells Marauder 2, the premier disc copy utility for the Amiga. Check out my review for Marauder 2, by the way. Marauder copies nearly all Amiga programs, and it deprotects many of those, allowing them to be placed in a RAM disk or on a hard drive. Before Arkanoid was released, people speculated whether or not Arkanoid would be copy protected. If it was, and Marauder could not copy it, that would make Marauder less useful. If it wasn't protected, Arkanoid could be easily pirated. Arkanoid is heavily copy protected. This leaves Discovery open to charges of hypocrisy from competitors. Note some differences with the arcade version. Discovery used the Amiga's overscan capability to make the game area as large as possible because they flipped the television screen around in the arcade version to have it more vertical than horizontal. And they mentioned the mouse controls compared to the paddle in the arcade, but at least you never need to put a quarter in the home version of Arkanoid. Rhett Anderson. Funny letter from a reader, Push ST. I would like to say that I agree with David Brown's comments in the September 88 issue, stating that you place more emphasis on the Amiga than the Atari ST. I believe you consistently make the Amiga sound better and more popular than the Atari ST. For example, in the August 88 Hints and Tips, you glorified the Amiga's graphics and said the ST was great for word processing. While it is good for word processing, the ST has equally great graphics. He then misstates the technicals on the graphic capabilities of both systems. And in your June 88 review of Arkanoid, you mentioned it was available for only the Amiga. The ST version came out first. I think it looks better on the ST. David Vissier, Belleville, Ontario. Commodore Magazine speaks to all home computer users, not just one segment. We may concentrate on the most popular systems, but we make every effort to be fair in our coverage of all major home computers. Neither Taito nor Discovery Software had released an ST version of Arkanoid by the beginning of October. Taito plans to release an ST version in the near future, however. Don't be like David Vissier in your love for any computer. I don't care if it's the Atari ST or the Amiga or DOS or any computer. Do not be like this idiot. The ST version came out first. It hadn't even been released. Talk about fulfilling what you think is your birthright. Just because you were handed the system, you bought the system, you think everything has to be best on that system. You are an idiot, David. And computer also get complaints from Amiga users saying that, you cover the DOS. You cover DOS too often. You just don't be like that kind of... Don't be obsessed fanboy like that. From January 89, compute 13 award winners, the best home computer products. Best of the rest, 60 more you can't afford to ignore. Commodore and Atari have also emerged from 1988 intact. While the Atari ST and Commodore Amiga have superb technical characteristics, the marketplace still labors under the mistaken impression that these are game machines. I'm amazed that these computers haven't become more popular. In terms of computational power per dollar, they can't be beat. Several television studios do use the Amiga for titling and other special effects, so at least some businesses recognize this computer's power. Now, there was an ad for Arkanoid in this. This is from Taito themselves. This is not actually an advertisement for the Amiga version. Note the differences between this advertisement from Taito and an advertisement you're going to see later on. Take note that it's all about Arkanoid here. Move over, Oscar, Emmy, Tony, and Grammy. Make room for the Compute Choice Awards. Best Arcade Game. Amiga Arkanoid is the best adaptation of any arcade game on a computer. The biggest difference between the arcade game and the Amiga version is the sound. Without a doubt, Arkanoid sounds even better at home than it does at the arcades. Next page also lists FA-18 as the best simulator. It's the best flight simulator we've seen on any personal computer. The word for this program is stunning. Interceptor may be the safest way to fly military jets. Just don't fall out of your chair. That was my last review. Check that one out. Now we are looking at the extra levels that Discovery added by pressing F3 or F4 in version 1.05. You get double the game. The levels themselves overall, there are definitely some very cute ones, like the first level, which is the Commodore logo, and I think the 7th or so level is the Amiga checkmark. Several of these levels are very cute and more artistically oriented. You know, there's lots more like things like trees, and I think there's a cherry or something in there. Here is some kind of eagle or something. Definitely more artistic, though overall I would say, not as well designed because, Discovery, you're not Taito, okay? And while the Taito levels definitely have some awful ones in there, they are awful for a reason. They are designed that way for the arcade, so you will pump in quarters. They're not badly designed, they're just ridiculously designed for a reason, versus the Discovery levels, which other than those cute, fun levels like the Commodore level and the Amiga checkmark, those are nice and easy and fun, and you'll have a blast playing those. You'll have a blast playing this one here. Like, when they do it simple, it's wonderful. When Discovery tried to make it more complicated, they are a million times, I think they're worse than the Taito levels in design, because, look, you're not on the arcade anymore. Don't make these awful levels that are ridiculously hard, Discovery. Now, Discovery also added several backgrounds to their levels, and I would say overall, I like these Discovery backgrounds of the levels more than I like the original Taito ones. And it is presented accurately in its original arcade 3:4 aspect ratio. Now, it's 4:3 in NTSC, as it should be, but a third of the screen on the right is just the Arkanoid and your high score, and the ridiculously massive Discovery logo, which is using a very impressive copper effect, going through all 4,096 colors on screen at the same time. Well, not the exact same time, but it's cycling through them all in that Discovery logo thing there. It's like that for a reason. It's not because they couldn't have put more in the playfield to the right. It's because that would involve stretching the graphics and making them not artistically accurate to the arcade 3:4. So it's 4:3, but it's 3:4 inside of the 4:3. And you're only going to see that accurately in NTSC mode, by the way, so switch your Amigas or emulators into NTSC, please. Now, even if you do have the PAL release of the game, I don't care. That's just a region lock. It's still not going to look right. It's still not going to play right. Play it in NTSC mode. December of 89, Amiga Plus, Expert Choices. 89, Best Amiga Products, 14 reviewers. Pick 'em. Popular Photography Magazine runs on Amiga Power. In no particular order, the best games, Arkanoid is still near the top and should be incorporated into the Amiga Games Hall of Fame. Just a plain fun mix of arcade action with a smidgen of thought. Computer Gaming World, February of '88. Warped in Space. Breakout of a space trap with Arkanoid. Arkanoid comes to the Amiga under licensee from Taito, producer of the arcade version of the game. On the Amiga, it is a perfect version of the arcade game in its playability that is lacking in most all other home computer arcade-like games. It has amazing graphics, play action, and stereo sound. It is incredible. All 33 levels are loaded into RAM, thus eliminating disk access. You can begin on any screen from level 1 to 20. When all your pedals are gone, the game asks for another quarter. Although your score is reset to 0, you can begin again at the same level where play ended. This is one feature that has been left out of far too many games. Too many games frustrate the player by requiring one to begin again from the start. Marble Madness and Barbarian, both excellent arcade-style games, have this fault. This game has great sustaining play value. Since you can continue playing at a given level, it is easy to keep on playing. When I first booted the game, I played for 3 straight hours. This is quite a game. Some simple skill, luck, and time is all you need for some very enjoyable, yet challenging play. Welcome a new magazine to my channel, Electronic Gameplay. I think there was only a few of these magazines before. I think they changed names at some point. Mostly a console magazine, but it did a few little sections on computer games here and there. Also did a little section on 1988's CES, where my joystick made an appearance as a mascot for a Wicco. That's my Wicco Ergo stick right there. That is an odd one as well. I mean, there's some other odd ones there too. I think that's Andre the Giant, the upper left there. Don't know what the heck's on the bottom left, but Detroit's own RoboCop rounds it out. It seems as though the gaming world has a bad case of Arkanoid fever. Taking full advantage of the Amiga's graphics and sound capabilities, you can see why this game has become so popular. If you own an Amiga and want a game you'll never grow tired of, take a look at Discovery's Arkanoid. This is the challenge all players are looking for, and even if you're not an avid game enthusiast, this is a little surprise you'll fall in love with. A must for Amiga owners. From Commodore Magazine, April 1988. Here they're talking about one of the yearly Amiga Expos, I believe. One of the biggest boosts belonged to Discovery Software. They were premiering the most popular game at the show, the Amiga version of the Smash Arcade coin-op, Arkanoid. Licensed from Taito America, Arkanoid is a second-generation version of the famous game Breakout. Discovery has faithfully duplicated the arcade-quality graphics in the Amiga version, and some thought the Amiga version actually sounds better than the arcade version. Arkanoid retails for $49.95. Their main review for the game would come in May of 1988. The game itself is extremely well written and incredibly addictive. Once you've played one round, you'll want to continue until you've seen all the screens. To my surprise, the Amiga version was exactly like the arcade, down to the last shine on the silver box. The graphics are exactly the same, and even the sound must have been digitized from the arcade machine, and some people even feel that the Amiga version is better, and that the mouse has better control than the paddles. They're insane with the paddle thought there. I had to resist reaching in my pocket for more coins when my Amiga printed insert coin on the screen. If you're looking for a good old-fashioned arcade game that doesn't get boring no matter how many times you play it, look for Arkanoid. A few months later, August of 1988. Discovery Software introduced a new version of their best-selling Arkanoid with 33 new levels and a reduced price of $29.95. Another new feature allows players to slow the action down to a pace they can handle. Discovery will try to implement this feature on subsequent releases as well for younger players or those with physical disabilities. So I'm showing you a toddler mode again here, just temporarily, just so you can see one of my records here. I didn't hit 1 million on this run, but I hit 1 million for the picture review. And from May of '89, God, magazines really like coming back to Arkanoid, didn't they? Getting a little into the history of this particular port, you might wonder why Discovery Software International put out an Arkanoid for the Amiga when Taito is releasing one too. Fetzer explains. The president and CEO of Discovery, Rick Ross, came up to us about a year ago at CES and said that he had the capability of doing Arkanoid on the Amiga. We decided that because we were about a year or more away from entering the Amiga market, it would be a good experiment to license that game to Discovery. Now that statement is a bit confusing because Taito never actually developed an Amiga Arkanoid. Now, Arkanoid 2, Revenge of Doh, did come out on the Amiga, but it was developed by Imagine, a British software company, in a straight Atari ST port. But Imagine would handle quite a few of the Arkanoid ports, including the original Arkanoid for the Atari ST and some other systems. So what I'm imagining is Taito wanted to enter a contract with Imagine for whatever reasons. They didn't necessarily want to enter into a contract with Discovery. I'm thinking the more I read about Discovery, I always wondered, why didn't they stay with Discovery? Because they did so well with the original, and the second, Arkanoid 2, Revenge of Doh, is a little it's not bad, but it's disappointing compared to the original because it is an obvious ST port. Always wondered, why didn't you stick with Discovery? They did such a great job. Well, the more I'm reading about Discovery, the more I'm not liking their actions. So the Taito guy said that, Discovery came up to us and said, well, they had the capability, so we decided to experiment with them there. And, maybe that's true, but maybe Discovery came to them with a prototype already. And Discovery has a history of, this was their first Amiga game, but they would release a few more Amiga games. All pretty damn good games, by the way, but all of them very much ripping off something else. And I think Discovery had a plan. And their plan was to get licenses from popular things. They made these games. I think they went up to quite a few companies, and quite a few of them said no. And so what they did was they changed. I think they had every intention of releasing an Arkanoid clone if Taito said no. And in fact, Discovery did eventually, once they lost the contract, which was very soon afterwards. Obviously, Taito did not want to stay with them despite the success of this game. And Discovery would release an Arkanoid clone, which was based off the same engine. They just changed the graphics a little bit. I'm not liking some of the Discovery tactics, and especially when you look at their advertising. And in the manual itself, they just spend all their time advertising themselves. The logo on the screen is bigger than the Arkanoid logo, their Discovery logo. Yeah, no wonder. It's no wonder why Taito did not want to stick with these guys. And even the extra levels, the version 1.05, double the levels, that was coming out at around the exact same time that Arkanoid 2, Revenge of Doh from Imagine was coming out. They added the levels specifically, and they lowered the price. Less than, half the price. Half the price, double the game. Why get Arkanoid 2? You can just have this original one. They were definitely doing some shady stuff. Well, here is a 2-page ad from Amazing Computing. 2-page ad where you gotta, put it portrait style in order to read it all. A whole third of the 2 pages is dedicated to Discovery's other software. From a later advertisement from Ahoy, where they had gotten their second Amiga game out, Zoom. Again, I'm not sure what Zoom is ripping off, but I have the strong feeling it is ripping off some arcade game. I just don't know what. It very much looks like, arcade games I've seen before. But, how do we get this new game? How do we get that out? Well, we gotta advertise it with Arkanoid. I mean, that's half the page. Arkanoid, and then don't forget this other thing we did. Now, there was a lot of reviews I didn't get to show you here, but quickly, I wanted to show you a little bit of a British perspective. See You Amiga from March 1991. The A to Z of classic games. I think they like A to Z over there. Arkanoid, programmed by Discovery. Arkanoid is one of the first arcade-quality games to appear on the Amiga based on the age-old Breakout format. Taito's Arkanoid coin-op is still considered to be the definitive version of this style. I think it's a classic Amiga title. Great memories from back in the day. Well, I think because of the pedals, the 64 version is probably overall better gameplay. Well, you also have the double the levels in this version, which is wonderful, and the arcade perfect graphics. It's unfortunate Discovery seemed to be a bit shifty in their business stylings, I believe. and that's why they didn't go on with the Arkanoids. But, well, we have this version, which is great and definitely recommended for anybody with an Amiga. And if you're just a fan of Arkanoid, period, well, you got to get the original version of Arkanoid, which has doubled the levels. Of course you do. Hope you'll check out some other videos, including Stygian Phoenix's Arkanoid versus Space Invaders video, my Arkanoid Do It Again on the Super Nintendo Season 2 start, and my very first video ever taking a look at the DOS version versus the Amiga version in a humorous way, and also Marauder 2 by Discovery. Hope you all enjoyed this video. I will see you all later. Bye.